Rosalind's new spars come from a number of different origins. I have a number of spars that came with the boat. She was set up as a gaff rigged ketch. So because I'm putting the rig back to the original dipping lug rig, there's nothing much was able to be used as is, but is usable if adapted. This is the bowsprit. It's going to still be the bowsprit, but I had to change the end of it quite a bit. I'm having to do some repairs, change the heel. There's also the big 4-lug yard over there. That is actually the old mizzen mast, if I'm remembering correctly. I think I am. I then have this, which is the new mizzen mast. This is actually a spar that was given to me by friends down, well, they were down in Virginia at the time. Where are they now? I don't even know where they are now. They're cruisers. And they were changing this spar out for a metal one. And it's just right to be my mizzen. And then we have the foremast here, which I built. This was actually a free spruce tree on Facebook Marketplace, which I went and got with the help of the guy whose yard it was. Really nice guy. Milled it up, let it dry, and built a 4-sided box construction, and then rounded it. And here it is. One of the first steps in rounding a spar is using one of these. This is a spar gauge. So it's a constant ratio, and no matter how it's tilted, the ratio stays the same. So as the spar tapers, you end up tilting it more, but it still maintains the ratio, which is 7-10-7, if I'm remembering correctly. Hopefully I am. Anyway, it is what it is. So when the spar is square, you'll run this down on all 4 sides, and you'll get 2 lines on each side, and that will tell you where to cut the corners off to turn it to 8-sided. You can also make these to 16-side, but 16-siding honestly is pretty well done by eye, and then 32-siding is completely by eye, and then at that point it's almost round. You then are going to want something like this. So this is actually a piece of the old end of the bowsprit with a 4-inch rubber union nailed to it, and a piece of all thread down the middle with a pipe handle, and it works better when it's plugged in. You then take a sanding belt, honestly the bigger the better, sanding belt, and turn it inside out, and it can be a little tricky to get it started, and then basically you do that up and down. I've got the spar that I'm working on set up on these little caster wheels, so that I can very easily turn to present a new area to work on. So, I'll go all the way down with this, turn it, go all the way down again, turn it again, until it's all around. This is obviously already round, but I had to scrape the varnish off, so it's a little rough. So this is good at very like cleanly tidying that up. Let me see what else. I've also been experimenting with what I can use 3D printing for practical things on the boat. You can't see these, but I printed a bunch of custom conduit clips because the spar has an embedded conduit all the way down, which is going to allow me to run wiring up the middle for navigation lights and lightning protection. On the inside, basically I needed a conduit clip that had 45-degree wings, which is not something you can buy, so I printed some and nailed them in there with plastic nails that I printed. So there's no metal in this mast. I've printed the sheave for the four-lug halyard, and you can't see that this is in here, but I made the opening for the sheave a little bit oversized and printed a plastic liner that means that will be what's worn on rather than the spar itself. So we'll see how all that holds up. I feel pretty good about it. All that stuff is printed in PETG, which is a type of polyethylene, which is good in the weather, is pretty good with UV. I also saturated all these pieces with Smith's penetrating epoxy, which I figured couldn't hurt. 3D printed parts come off of the printer a little bit porous, so the Smiths will get in there and it will fill any voids that there are and make the piece last a lot longer, I think. That's the theory anyway. This one's pretty much done. It still needs some finish work and to have the sheave installed, and wiring, and it needs a collar fabricated to go at the top for the Burton and the jib halyard to attach to. I'm painting the tips of both masts white with a 2-part epoxy based primer from TotalBoat, their Total Protects, and then just using a Benjamin Moore industrial exterior paint. Make it as tough as possible where it's going to get worn on as much as any part of it. So this one will get the same treatment when it's ready. So this is the lower part of this one has 3 coats of thinned linseed oil currently, but I haven't quite decided what I'm going to top that with. Definitely using Le Tonkinois, like linseed oil based varnish, but I'm thinking to make a mixture with some pine tar and some linseed and maybe some penetrol. I don't know. I'm gonna do some experiments anyway, and see what seems like it makes a good coating, and then that will get put on all of them. This one, once it's clean, I'm going to need to figure out what the I mean, they're not really hounds, but the hounds area, so where the mizzen halyard goes, and then there's a collar above that where the shroud's attached to, where the jump stay attaches to, and then above that there's a sheave right at the top for the topsail as well, which needs to be let in, and I'll do the same thing with a plastic casing on both of those. And then that will be pretty much ready. I was thinking about making the heel of this square-sided, as it would have probably originally been, and as the foremast is, the below deck portion and the little bit above deck is square. But I think I'm not going to do that. I'm going to modify the mizzen partner instead, because why make a round thing square? Seems silly. Yeah.
Square things round, though.
Square things round, yes. Round things square, no. The way that spars and sails are typically handled on luggers is that each sail is more or less permanently bent onto its yard. These yards are either in use or they're stored in what's called raft irons, which so there's and I have to look this up. They're always on one side of the boat, and I can't remember which side it is, just by convention. There is a closed steel hoop with a stanchion that comes down from it. This goes through the cap rail, actually. It's like right on the cap rail. And then there's an open-ended hoop. So all the spars get stuck into the closed one and then lashed across the open one. And then they're just stored there when they're not in use. And the hoops are big enough to store all of them when they're not in use. And in that way, oftentimes you don't reef in a conventional way. You actually, when you're reducing sail, you switch sails. They're all pretty much the same proportions and aspect ratio, so you'll change from the big forelug and the big mizzen to putting the big mizzen on the fore and the second mizzen on the mizzen, and and so on. Yeah, it's unusual, but it works. So So I have a mix of things here. I have some spars that are, they're not original to the boat, but they're original to the boat as I got her. I also have this great big spruce stick that needs a lot of work. We're repairing, checking and whatnot. That's going to be the boomkin. I also have bits and pieces of spars from other boats and other projects that I've picked up. I've got bits of dug fir that this is actually what happens when you 8-side a spar. You end up with pieces like this, and someone was throwing them out, so I scooped them up. So there's bits and pieces. Some of these spars are mostly fine, but they want to be like glued to each other to get the length up, or they need a new end scarfed on, or they just need, like, where hardware like this is going to come off is going to need some repair. It's all there.
What's your preferred method for making a stick longer? Do you like to do the sort of like beak sort of situation, or how do you do
I've actually never done that. I probably will.
Can you describe what I just did behind the camera?
Right. There's a couple of different ways for lengthening spars or repairing spars. They're all different types of scarves. You can do just a long plain scarf, that's fine. You can also do what's called a clothespin, which is like double. So, a scarf here and a scarf there. That is stronger. But, with the glues that we use these days, stronger isn't always necessary because it can be plenty strong enough as it is. And I've got a whole bunch of hardware to strip off, and probably gonna try to sell most of that hardware because it's not applicable to me. It's all, you know, gaff rig hardware, goosenecks and whatnot. Yeah. And this is Rosalind's original keel, which I am going to use for something. Don't know what yet. Yeah, I'm going to use it in the interior somehow. Cut sections of it, clean it up, seal it.
Let us know in the comments if you'd buy a pen.
Yeah, or a coaster, or a something.
Something, I don't know. We'd love to use this material.
Yeah. And it's pretty special. You know, it's English elm, and it's very, very old. So, yeah. Not exactly sure how old because I don't have the whole tree, but it's old. Sort of can't believe I built that. It's wild.
It's really big.
Yeah. Buck wild. Okay.